Hey, it's Amy Shaw here. I think it's June 30th today, and I was hoping to make another video with Jared last night. I was going to go to a community despacho and a bridge building mesa ceremony for somebody who's living in the Austin, Texas area, and also building residence in Peru. So he was wanting to build a bridge mesa with people from the local community here in Austin. And so I was hoping to go to that last night. I was hoping to bring Jared with me, but he wasn't feeling good. And, I was nervous about leaving him home alone. My husband was at work. And, actually it turned out that it's a good thing that I didn't leave him, because I asked him beforehand. He didn't want to go. I asked him if he felt like it was okay for me to leave him, and he said he wasn't sure. So I decided not to, because he's had a seizure before when we weren't home, and didn't turn out so good. So it's a good thing I didn't, because all kinds of crazy poltergeist activity was happening in his room last night, and it really freaked him out. And he asked me to go in there and clear his room. I don't use sage. It's too smoky for him, and it burns too smoky. The smell's overwhelming. So I use Palo Santo, and I rattle, and went in there and did some other kind of shamanic work. But I really wanted to talk a little bit more with Jared, and I don't like talking about him when he's not here. But I just thought it was really important to sort of give a little insight into his seizure that occurred the other day at the program. And I knew, that he was going to have a seizure, because I know the signs. I can tell how he starts to act. He gets real quiet. He starts laying his head down a lot. He's kind of agitated, doesn't have a lot of patience. Sometimes he'll start talking a lot and really fast, and sometimes he just gets real quiet. He has moments of sort of spacing out, where he's kind of spaced out, stares off, almost like an absence seizure. But he will respond if I sort of walk up to him and hello, Jared, he will respond. But he was doing a lot of that stuff, and I usually kind of try to corral him, and I'll be like, let's go, do you want to go outside, let's get some fresh air, and try to redirect him. But he has these moments where he's stubborn about it. He talked a little bit about that in the video we made the other day, the two parts of himself, the higher self and then sort of the shadow self, having this conversation within himself where he knows he's recognizing the symptoms, but there's something about him that's compelling him to not self-care. And, so I'm not sure, exactly what that is, but we're still working on that, because he's done really well in doing the self-care and not having seizure. But I think it was just really super overwhelming. Oh, beautiful blue jay. Ooh, awesome. Part of that too was, we were in this room, and the citizens, they call them, were there in this program, and they were glazing pottery, and these were adults, anywhere I would say from Jared's age, early 20s, all the way up into mid 30s, I would say. And they seem to be a little bit more lower functioning than Jared is. And me, I expected that. I worked at the regional center system in California. Those were my peeps. Those were my peeps. I love them. That was my whole entire caseload. I had about 80 people in my caseload, and those were my peeps. I had a transition caseload for a long while, which was young adults. So it was young adults transitioning from the high school special education programs into appropriate adult programs. They age out at 21, and so that really was my age range. I had that caseload for a long time. I loved it. I love those, working with those people and their families so much. So it wasn't shocking to me at all, and it wasn't out of my norm. But I didn't even think to actually prepare Jared for that and let him know that the people that you see there might be, you know, people that have disability, that are lower functioning than you. I didn't even think to say that to him. So I think that the moment when we walked into that room, he was already seizure-y anyways and could have easily been persuaded. But when we walked into that room, it was very small, and, you know, they were all sitting around sort of glazing their pottery, and they all had their, you know, disabilities, their quirkiness and their personalities, their speech sort of oddities, you know. And the wonderful thing about people with disabilities like that is that they're so unique. I mean, they really are, like, such unique, incredibly different individuals. You know, you'll never meet any two that are anything like each other, you know, and so you can't even stereotype it in a way, you know. And so that's what I love about them, is they have such unique personalities and characteristics. But I didn't prepare Jared for that. I didn't even think to do that. So I think when we walked in, he's not used to that. That's really not his element. You know, I have really worked hard, even though I homeschooled him, to mainstream him in every way. I mean, we are out in the community, and I'm not even sure if that's the right program for him. You know, it feels to me perhaps a little bit more insulated and isolated than I'm even comfortable with. But, you know, I've really tried to, you know, to me, he's like everybody else, and you know, I've worked really hard to put him out there in the mainstream. You know, we're out in the community. Even when I homeschooled him, we were doing things with the homeschooling co-op out in the community with all the other kids that weren't special ed, you know. And so I've never ever, like, treated him or made him think in any way that he's different, or, you know, that he had to be, like, isolated in some sort of special program, you know, for you know, kids that you know, had autism or anything like that. So I think that came somewhat as a shock to him. And he told me later, you know, that his tears, that his overwhelm with emotion was, he said, because I asked him, you know, after we made the video, I said, you know, what do you think about that? Do you think that program is maybe a little too low functioning for you? And he said, no, I don't have a problem with that at all. Those people don't bother me at all. I know who I am, basically. He said, if anything, I'm, like, inspired by them. You know, they inspired me. And that was what he said he felt overwhelmed by. Just, you know, being in that space and, like, empathically touching on people's struggle, I guess, and seeing, you know, that they were there creating beautiful art, and that they were being honored, you know, for the divine, unique, beautiful individuals that they are. So that overwhelmed him. And the one kid that got up and was, like, trying to shake everybody's hand, you know, he just had a really outspoken personality, you know. Hi, my name's, and going around shaking everybody's hand, you know. And then when he got to Jared, I think Jared was already in that sort of emotional state, and he just was like, I've never seen him do that before. He, like, froze up. And as the kid sort of, like, walked towards him, you know, Jared took 3 or 4 steps backwards, like, to avoid him. And then the instructor there, you know, redirected the kid and said, that's okay, that's okay. And then Jared, like, turned around and actually put his back to the entire group. And so when I looked back and I realized Jared had done that, that's so not like him. He's so outgoing and usually hyper friendly, you know, overly friendly to everybody. I knew, oh God, he's really going to have a seizure. So I don't know, I just wanted to talk a little bit more about it and sort of, like, flesh it out and express, you know, what that's about for him. It's like an emotional overwhelm. And when he gets in that emotional overwhelm, whether it's, you know, empathically connecting with somebody else, or feeling some type of, like, threat or assault onto his, I don't want to say ego, because that makes it seem like, that makes it seem different than what it really is. I mean, having autism, like, you could tell him, like, dude, you stink, you know, or go brush your teeth, or go, and that doesn't even offend him. Like, he doesn't have a very low, you know, his being direct or even being teased is very, very high, you know. So I mean, that wasn't even you know, an issue for him. So it's not really ego. It's not ego I'm trying to get at, but it's more like his sense of himself. So I guess what I'm saying, that it's not even like his pride per se, like it's not his pride in himself, but it's more like his sense of himself, his inner core. Like I would even put it down to the level of the solar plexus. It's that gut check, you know, this is who I am. When he feels that is being somehow questioned or attacked or it's unsafe, I mean, he just goes whoop into himself, and that's it. He's having a full-on seizure. So when I went and did his room clearing yesterday, he was really anxious about a particular spot in his closet. And I went in the closet and I turned out the light, and I even offered to him, shut the door, shut me in here. I want you to shut me in here. He wouldn't do it. He was afraid for me. And I told him, look, I'm not afraid. I see in the dark, and I'm not afraid, you know. So there was a particular area, and what he had done is his clothes had, well, I'm not even going to get into it. I really am not even going to get into it. For his protection, I'm not even actually going to get into the details of it. I'll just say that I went into his room and I did a clearing, and there was some poltergeist activity happening in his room, and it was really freaking it out. I was trying to make him understand that there's actually not an entity or any kind of malevolent thing happening in here, that he's doing this. He's projecting out. And so I've come to understand spiritually that his psychogenic seizures are like a reverse poltergeist. I mean, you guys heard him say in the last video, if you watched it, that he really couldn't even hurt a fly. You know, he's like a big teddy bear. In a big way, that is Jared. When he was a kid in regular school, before I started homeschooling him, he was bullied so bad, and we had to put him in karate to try to teach him how to defend himself. And you know, you pair up with the other students in your group and you spar and you take turns. One's the aggressor, the other's the defender, and then you switch roles. When it would come his turn to be the aggressor, he couldn't do it. He wouldn't do it. He would just sort of like always be in the defensive mode, but he just couldn't do it. So he's just always had that nature about him, that he's here to love people, to be a lover, you know, and he doesn't have a warrior spirit, not like me. You know, I have that warrior spirit. He doesn't have it. And so I think what happens is that, you know, poltergeist is like an externalization of the emotion, the emotional energy, psychically. So people that are highly psychically gifted, and they might not even be in tune with it, they project out the emotional energy, which really is psychic energy, because they haven't been taught how to use it. And they project it out. And poltergeists happen predominantly in teenagers, because they're ripe at that age where, you know, the emotional energy is very intense, and they still lack the ego skill to work with it. So they put it out. They put it out into the environment, and it creates what's called a poltergeist. And it looks like paranormal ghost activity. You know, a lot of telekinesis and crap like that happens. And so I've known for a really long time that Jared's psychogenic seizures are a form of poltergeist, but rather than externalize it, because he's so afraid of hurting people, and I think that his higher self, his shadow self, his subconscious self, knows his power. He knows his power, and he's afraid of it. So rather than, you know, discharge it out into the environment where he thinks somewhere inside of himself that somebody could potentially get hurt, he internalizes it, and so he goes into seizure. So I've for a long time seen his seizures as like a reverse poltergeist, you know, in a sense. So it's not surprising to me me that he had 2 seizures this week, and then all of a sudden last night, and he's having like poltergeist activity in his room, and he comes out like freaked out. Oh my God, stuff's moving, and you know. So I went in there and I assessed the situation spiritually, and I didn't feel. Everywhere I went, where he was telling me, over here, everywhere I went, I felt him. And when I closed my eyes in the closet, I saw him. I literally saw his disembodied soul being out of his body, roaming around in that bedroom. So a lot of my shamanic work has really been different than it is with a lot of other people. A lot of people come to me and they want, you know, help with entity attachments, spirit attachments, whatever. It doesn't even always end up to be that, but they think it's that. Some type of attachment that they're identifying in their life. And, you know, in his case, it's interesting because, you know, it's really him. It's him dissociating and not staying in his body. So the work that I'm having to do with him is a whole different kind of thing. And, you know, it has more to do with setting up boundaries and protections, and sort of keeping him contained in a perimeter around his body. So anyway, I just wanted to share that, and I was hoping I could talk more with Jared about it, but he's not feeling good. So before the thoughts left me, I wanted to make another video and share that with you guys. So thanks for watching as always, and once again, if you were attracted to this video somehow because you or someone you know and or love is suffering from psychogenic non-epileptic seizures, you know, I'm willing to share with you my insights and my knowledge and what I know about it, you know, what I know about healing and what I've been doing with my son shamanically to assist him in overcoming these. And I'd also love to talk about all the other things that we've tried, some with some success and some no success at all, you know, just to you know, give insight, because I know firsthand like how incredibly disabling these seizures are, and how totally discouraging, how very little help and understanding that you get from the allopathic medical community, and you know how you can really fall into hopelessness and despair with this disorder. So I don't want anybody to feel that way. There's always hope, and if you, like I said, if you clicked on this because of the title, Psychogenic Non-Epileptic Seizures, please do not hesitate to get a hold of me, and we'll talk. All right, as always, I love you guys so much, and thanks for watching.